All right, everybody, welcome back to another night here in the garage working on the Lightning Redemption project. Gonna get back on getting the spark plugs changed out. I brought home a few extra tools to try to get the gunk out of the spark plug wells and around the spark plugs. Basically, there's a bunch of dirt and soot and all kinds of stuff mixed together that's packed tight around the hex of the spark plug. So I got a long screwdriver, I've got an air blow gun. I'm just gonna basically ice pick at it, loosen all that stuff up, blow it out, and then once I can get that out of the way, I can stick my spark plug socket on it, and then I can back the spark plugs out, finish the spark plug job, and then I can go back to, I got the intercooler cleaned out. I'll show some pics of that or some shots of that, but I've got it all nice and clean. I'll reassemble the intercooler to the mid plate, get that set down in there, and then we're just gonna see what happens from there. We're just in reassembly mode at this point, so whatever assembly we can get done, we're gonna get done and just keep plugging away until we just make further and further progress. So let's get at it. All right, update time. I'm about to assemble the intercooler to the mid plate. If you remember from the previous video how sludged and tarnished this looked, it wasn't the worst I've seen, but I took this into the hot tank at work. It's actually basically a glorified auto parts dishwasher, but works really, really well. It's a non-caustic. Got it cleaned up. It looks really good. So we're going to get this mounted up with some new gaskets to the mid plate here. This looks nice and clean now. Got this cleaned up. So I'll get this mounted up, and then I'll set that back in the lower intake, which the Lightning router guys will call the turkey pan. Got that sprayed out and clean. All the oil and gunk's kind of gone. There's still going to be some remnants there going into intake ports, but I don't want to spray any gunk into the intake ports where I can't clean out on that side, so we're just going to leave that be. But all the sludge and everything's gone. I got all the rest of the coils and spark plugs done, as you could see from the time lapse that I took, and I got the bolts in there properly. I just back threaded them, and then I was able to once I cleared out the first thread, running them in from behind, I was able to then put it in going forward. Things seem to work out well that way. So now our fuel rail is properly mounted, and time to just get the intercooler down mounted. All right, so quick follow up. I was getting ready to mount this intercooler. I had a new gasket set for all the components here, and the gasket set that was looked up for the VIN of the truck that this stuff was pulled out of, which was a 2000, this does not fit. So the intercooler area was smaller. The 99 to 2000 engines was, I believe, 340 rated horsepower, and then the 01 to 04s were rated at a 360 horsepower. So the intercooler and opening here is actually bigger on this area right here, and then this intercooler is actually bigger on the later Lightning engines, and that's probably for the increased horsepower. They increased the airflow and did some minor adjustments there. So this might be the higher horsepower engine. You either had two explanations: either the intake and intercooler supercharger was swapped out to the 01 on up, and that was all that was needed, or the whole engine itself was swapped out. Could have been blown and then they put in another one from another truck. Hard to say when you're getting a used assembly with no history. But it looks like we might have the higher rated one, coupled with, I found that this has an aftermarket pulley setup on it. This is possibly what's considered a 2-pound pulley, which is just slightly larger than stock, which gives us a little bit extra increase in boost. So we might have the higher horsepower option going in here. So I believe this truck is really going to move and scoot around when we get her going. All right, so we have the intercooler installed, attached here to the mid plate. Have the back bolts installed. Before I can get ready to install the supercharger, I'll need to get the coolant crossover pipes that go to these nipples. But before I can do that, I'm going to be replacing these heater hose assemblies. And if you look, one is buried all the way back here. And the unfortunate part about it, I've been fighting it a little bit, is if we look, the pinch clamp, one of the ears right there, right underneath where my fingernail was, that is between the valve cover gasket, or excuse me, the valve cover assembly and a harness bracket. So it's making it extremely difficult to get the clamp to properly pinch and release so I can move it up off the hose to pull the entire hose out. So what I'm going to have to do is stick my hands in the very narrow space between that firewall back here and that bracket and remove the two 10mm nuts so I can remove that bracket up out of the way, and then maybe possibly get that hose clamp up and off there, and then I can get these heater hoses on and move forward. But these are the little things that when you're doing a big project and you're getting ready to stab an engine, the most efficient techs and mechanics that work on stuff, they look over the engine and look for issues like this before you stab such a big project back in there, because you do not want to have to fight things like this, because it robs a lot of time and efficiency from doing that. You know, when I do day-to-day stuff in my regular daytime hour job, that's what I'm doing. When I'm getting ready to put stuff back together in a big thing, I'm looking over it to make sure I'm not going to kick myself for overlooking some obvious stuff like that. So just a head, that's, yeah, not just a heads up. So that's where I'm at on that. I'm going to have to go get some stuff, and I probably won't be able to get any time lapse of that just because all you're going to see is my hands blocking the camera. But once I get that adjusted and get those heater hoses on, we'll move on to the next step. All right, this concludes another work installation, a couple nights worth of work here on the Lightning Redemption project. If we look right there, that is not installed. I know it's a tease, but I just really wanted a sneak peek to get that extra motivation as to where we're headed. But we are getting close. It will be soon that bad boy will be permanently mounted. I've got heater hoses. I've got the firewall one hooked up. I just need to reinstall a bracket and some few minor things behind it before I get the other heater hose buttoned up, and then I can start getting some stuff finalized around the supercharger area so I can indeed bolt this up. I will need to drain the oil out of it and put it with fresh before I actually do bolt it in. But other than that, we are getting pretty close, and it is really exciting to get to a point to where the best part about this project, which of course is the supercharger, is getting near. I mean, the glorious music of bald eagles is really approaching, and that's what we're looking for. So that concludes another night. Like, follow, subscribe, do all the YouTube things, and then just wait in anticipation for the next one. Out.